Welcome back to the Rams Active channel. Wow, messed it up there. I'm your host, Rune, also known as Colt Rooney, also known as Rams Active, and I'm here joined once again by my good friend and co-host, James Torillo. JT, how we feeling? How we feeling?
We're feeling good because the Rams season is alive and well. I know a lot of people aren't very impressed with the way they played. I'm not impressed with the way they played. But a road win in the playoffs is a win. You got to take what you can get. Going into that game, if you said, hey, the Rams are going to win 34-31, do you take it? Yes or no? Obviously, we'd say yes because it gives them life to go to the second round and now go to Chicago to take on the Bears. So I'm excited. I'm obviously worried because it's the playoffs, but I have a good feeling and I'm confident in our Rams.
Yep, I'm same way as you, and a lot of people, what I constantly hear online on Twitter, Instagram, all of the works, is that the Rams almost lost to an 8-9 team, which you can look at it that way, and you can say, yeah, well, the Rams don't deserve to be here. They deserve to lose to an 8-9 team. But what they're failing to realize is that the Panthers match up well against the Rams better than
Yep.
other teams. I mean, you look at them, they have a better D line, I would say, than the Bears, who the Rams are about to play.
Yeah.
And the Rams, they were missing Kevin Dotson. I mean, they were missing arguably their best offensive lineman. So that's not, I wouldn't call that anything good. I'd actually call that a recipe for disaster. And that's that might be a partial reason that Stafford's going to be playing with a banged up hand for probably the rest of the postseason. So there's that. You also look at it, Tedero McMillan. He's really good. Jalen Coker, I never want to see him again. Jalen Coker is a menace. He's very good. I never
Dude,
want to
I
see him
picked him
again.
up in fantasy because when Devontae Adams got hurt, I needed a guy in fantasy, and there weren't many options because it's a 12-man league. And I picked up Coker for the playoffs, and I had him in the championship. He stunk. He stunk. And then he goes up against the Rams the week after I'm done, fantasy playoffs are over, and he scores almost ends the Rams season. I would have lost it. I would have lost
Yeah,
my mind.
yeah. You look at that Rams secondary, and it's just kind of been struggling. I mean,
Mm.
it's no surprise here. You were missing Akello for more than half the season. Then he comes back, and now he's gone again. I want to get your thoughts on that. What are your thoughts on Akello done for the rest of the year?
It sucks because we know the secondary's been struggling even with him, so not having him, it's a big deal. Now, I know if you're not a Rams fan and you're watching this, you're probably thinking it's Akello Witherspoon. It's not, it's
Yeah, like
not
who
like
is
he's the
he?
greatest corner in the league, but he's the best corner on our team and he's a very big factor in this defense. We saw how different this defense was while he was out for most of the regular season. We saw how elite this defense was when he was healthy, when Quentin Lake was healthy, when everyone was at their best the first few weeks of the season. Now, without Akello, it's going to be a bit rough. But I mean, I'm worried about the defense. I am. I'm worried about them because Quentin Lake is back. That's great. But we saw Kobe Durant did not have a good game against the Carolina Panthers. Forbes was fine. We knew they were trying to go after him, and he held his ground. So I can't complain. But I gotta say, I'm worried. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm worried about this defense. If I wasn't worried about this defense last week, I think I'm especially worried about the defense this week. I mean, the defensive line, I would like to say they get a big shout out for me. They had, I don't know the exact number. I think it might have been 34 pressures if I'm remembering it correctly. I don't know, fact check me, but
I think it was 34.
they really did. They had a good time getting pressure on Bryce Young, and that might be the reason the Rams won this game is because despite the throws Bryce Young was able to make, especially that last one to Coker, that was a perfectly placed ball. Jalen Coker just beat Cam Curl, but no, this defensive line they were able to get a great amount of pressure, and that's something that the Rams have been kind of struggling to do in the last couple weeks. So, and it was especially apparent in that game against the Panthers earlier in the year. But it was great to get redemption against this Panthers team. You had to hear it for the rest of the year. For the Rams lost to the Panthers. The Panthers suck. A lot of people disrespect the Panthers. I personally think the Panthers are better than the record. It might be because they beat us and they were in the playoffs and played well against us, and I'm just trying to look good, but no, I think this Panthers team's a good team. I think Bryce Young's a good quarterback. I've always stood by Bryce Young since his rookie year. I'm a big Bryce Young fan. He's a California native. I live in California. I supported him. But no, this Panthers team's not a bad team, and I think people need to start realizing that.
No, I couldn't agree more. I feel like Bryce Young is going to be a very good quarterback if he's not already. I think if you put him in a better situation, not saying Carolina's bad, but putting him in a better situation on a team like if he were on obviously on an offense with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, he would thrive and he would be great. But I feel like he's going to be a very good quarterback for the Panthers for years to come. I think now that they've kind of broken the ice and gotten a feel for the playoffs, even though for them it's a heartbreaking loss, they've broken the ice. They got a feel for the playoffs. They've been there now, and they're going to be there for years to come. I think that's their division. I think the NFC South now runs through Carolina. So you got to tip your cap. Panthers, good season. If there's somehow any Panthers fans watching this, sorry that the season had to end that way, but you guys have a bright future. I have a friend who's a Panthers fan. I texted him after the game and I said, look, that team is gonna be good for a while, and they might not be there yet. They might only be 8-9. They might be a first round exit. They may have won the worst division in football, but they're gonna be there in the next few years, and they're just gonna keep getting better. So, got to tip your cap, like I said, and shout out to the Carolina Panthers on a good season.
Yeah, I agree with that. The Carolina Panthers, like I said earlier, a lot of people, it's easy for you to look at their record and say, oh wow, they don't deserve to be in the playoffs, but they're a good team. And I think they just had some games not go their way this year, some unfortunate losses that make their record obviously look worse. I think they're a 10-win team. Obviously, they won 8 games, but I think they're as good as any 10-win team in this league. The Panthers, it was definitely a nerve-wracking game there. Even with the Terrence Ferguson touchdown, not Terrence Ferguson, I get Ferguson to Parkinson, always mixed up.
Yeah, similar name.
Colby Parkinson touchdown, he confuses me because never have I seen somebody be able to drop the easiest passes and catch the hardest passes.
Yeah.
It does confuse me, but a great way to take the lead there and not give it back. A game-winning drive led by the MVP, Glock 9, John Matthew Stafford. Let's go snatch these guys' hearts. That if we win the Super Bowl this year, I I honestly think you can solidify Stafford as not only the greatest Rams quarterback of all time, not only the Rams' greatest offensive player of all time, but just the greatest Ram of all time. It
Over Aaron Donald?
Don't get me wrong, it is hard to stop Aaron Donald. I don't know, but
Mm.
looking at Stafford playing the quarterback position, playing through as many injuries in his career as he had, especially on the Rams, yeah, like I said earlier, his hand's gonna be it's something to note. His finger is sprained. That's probably the best news we could have gotten about that. But no, I think Stafford, with or without a Super Bowl this year, say we lose in the Super Bowl in the NFC Championship, say we lose this Sunday, and he calls it quits, he's gonna be one of my favorite Rams that I've ever watched, and I think it'll be that way for a long time. What are your thoughts on that? I love Matthew Stafford, man.
I agree. I got his jersey hanging up right here, the rivalry jersey. Shout out John Matthew Stafford, Glock 9. Let's go snatch their hearts.
Let's go snatch these guys' hearts.
Yeah, but I remember when we traded for him, I know you're not a big Jared Goff guy, but I was a huge Jared Goff guy. He was my favorite player aside from Cooper Kupp. I loved Jared Goff and I was devastated when we traded him. But I never in a million years thought that anybody would pass Jared Goff for my favorite quarterback ever. Matthew Stafford did that with ease. I mean, he's on his way hopefully to bringing a second Super Bowl to LA, the third Super Bowl in Rams history, the fifth championship in Rams history that would tie the Niners and make us a better franchise than those bums because they're getting bounced by Cooper Kupp this week. Anyways, sorry I got off topic, but yeah, no, I love Matthew Stafford, and I think if we do win the Super Bowl, which I don't like to get ahead of myself. I don't like to look at the Super Bowl yet because we still have to beat Chicago and then either Seattle or Niners. You got to take it one game at a time. But let's say hypothetically, Rams run the table. They win the bowl this year. Matthew Stafford passes Kurt Warner as the best Rams quarterback of all time.
He already has, in my opinion. That
Really? You think
that
so?
might be crazy to say that. Kurt Warner does have an MVP award. Does he have two?
Two MVPs in a Super Bowl. So,
But I mean,
but Stafford, if he
I'm
wins
gonna
this
look at
year,
the ring
he'd have
count
an
more. I'm gonna
MVP
look at the
and two
MVP.
Super Bowls.
I will say, if Matthew Stafford wins the MVP award like I think he should, I think if Drake May wins it, it's just the NFL being scared to go away from what fans think, which it shouldn't be like that. It should be
Right.
the best player in football gets the MVP award. It shouldn't be up to the fans to decide. I think it's Matthew Stafford. I think Matthew Stafford's the better quarterback than Drake May. I'm not taking away from Drake May at all. Let's get that for sure. I love Drake May as a player. One of my favorite quarterbacks to watch even before this season, even last season, he was one of my favorite guys to watch. But Matthew Stafford, he's my MVP. He's my quarterback. He's my guy. I'm riding with Matthew Stafford for that. I really honestly couldn't care about the MVP award. Say it does go to Drake May. I'm not really going to care. I'm going to be pretty pissed if the Rams aren't playing for a Super Bowl and it goes to Drake May, because that's going to be like, well, what'd you
That was
accomplish this season? Nothing. But
yeah.
I don't know. Let's get moving towards this Bears game. This Bears game, surprisingly for me, I'm not as scared for this Bears team as I was for the Panthers. Don't get me
That's what
wrong,
a lot of people are saying.
I'm still very scared, but I think it's a matter of the Rams match up better against this Bears team. I think the Panthers defense is better than the Bears defense. I think we could
Hmm.
agree on that.
Hmm.
J.C. Horn and Mike Jackson, they're shut down. Mike Jackson played a hell of a game. He's a problem. So is J.C. Horn. J.C. Horn's one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best cornerback in the NFL. I really wanted the Rams to trade for him or sign him at one point, but you don't get everything you wish for, obviously, and that's kind of just a big wish. But I think the Bears defense isn't as good as the Panthers defense, so you're gonna have that. And getting Kevin Dotson back, which Kevin Dotson, Josh Wallace, and Terrence Ferguson are all optimistic to play this Sunday, which is great news. I haven't heard anything on Jordan Whittington, but even without Jordan Whittington, that is great news. Getting those guys back, especially Terrence Ferguson, it's going to allow you to open up the 13 personnel more. I don't think I saw enough of it in that Panthers game, but you come away with the
Not at
win.
all.
So, yeah. So I think getting Terrence Ferguson back is definitely going to help accelerate that 13 personnel usage. Josh Wallace could be used in the secondary. Maybe he lines up at corner if they want to get special. I don't know. You could see it. I think Josh Wallace is a good player. I think he filled that Quentin Lake void pretty well. And then obviously the big one, Kevin Dotson, filling in at right guard. Justin Dedich had not a bad game considering going against guys like Derek Brown.
Yeah.
He had an all right game.
He had a penalty early on, but that was really it.
That's it. Speaking of penalties, I feel like that was the most amount of penalties I've ever seen in a Rams game ever. That was a pretty undisciplined game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's something that really hasn't been a problem all year. They're one of the least penalized teams in the league.
I think the least.
Yeah. And, you get to the playoffs and all of that changes. That's unacceptable. And it's stupid penalties too, like lining up off sides when you have the ball. Like
stuff like that. I think Devontae Adams had a false start. Then Xavier Smith had a
block in the back on a punt return.
Yeah,
it's stupid crap that can't happen in the playoffs, man.
Just inexcusable stuff like that.
And it's not. Guess what? It's not gonna fly against a team like the Bears. They're gonna make you pay. We got lucky that, and no disrespect to the Panthers, I just said like 5 minutes ago that we agreed that they're better than their record and that they're gonna be good for years to come. But at the same time, the Panthers aren't exactly the biggest threat in the playoffs. So they might not make you pay for stupid mistakes. They might let you get away with it. Bears, Seahawks, and Niners will not. They will not let you get away with that. The Rams need to play better in the divisional round if they want to win. I think that's an obvious statement. But, Rude, I want to go back to something that we were talking about a few minutes ago. We were talking about Glock 9, the MVP. Who do you think is going to be the next quarterback for the Rams if he retires after this season?
You know what? There's a lot of variables that go into that. You look at it and say, did you say if Matthew Stafford just calls it quits after this season?
Yeah, if he retires after this season, no matter what, who's our next QB?
So I think the first thing you look at quarterbacks who are looking for a change of scenery, and that's obviously how the Rams got Matthew Stafford. You look how that paid off. First year with Matthew Stafford, you win ring number 2. So, and there's a couple of guys who I think could fit into that category of potentially wanting a new change of scenery, and the Rams seeing that and throwing some picks their way and getting them interested, kind of like how they did with the Lions and Matthew Stafford. But I think just some big names to kind of put in that category. Names that come to mind, I think of Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott is probably not a very likely one. I think the Rams, his asking price won't be as much as those guys like like Joe Burrow, guys like Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, who are all I'll name those guys too. Those guys, they'll be way more expensive than say a guy like Dak Prescott, but I feel like if the Rams know that this guy is going to be their next franchise quarterback and be there for, because how many seasons has Matthew Stafford been on this roster? You look at 21 when he win the chip. Second
This is
year,
his
he's
fifth
injured
year.
most of the year. Puka's rookie year, last year, this year. So this is five. This is year 5 under Stafford. And Stafford before that, I mean, he was, I think, 32 years old when we got him, 32 or 33. Now you're looking at him and he's 37 and he's still playing MVP level football. But no, I think the Rams, if they know that some of those guys that I mentioned could be a potential franchise quarterback, I think there's nothing wrong with going after them and throwing a couple first round picks their way. You look at this year, you have two. I would like to use both draft picks, but say you want to trade for a quarterback this year after Stafford calls it quits, if he does, I wouldn't be mad if you trade both those picks away and maybe even another first rounder, like a second or third rounder and a player, maybe like a pick swap in there for that quarterback of the future.
I was talking to my friend about this yesterday, who's a Cowboys fan, and this isn't related to the Cowboys, but we were talking about who the next Rams quarterback is going to be. And obviously Joe Burrow came up because he's one of the guys that's going to be named all offseason. Little bit of a mock trade. I want to see what your thoughts are. Would you trade 3 firsts and Jared Verse for Joe Burrow?
That's a hard one. 3 first round picks. So you're talking.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need
So
we
our
need.
2 firsts for this year and the
Yeah, I was
first
just about to
after
say.
that for
Okay,
Jared
our
Verse.
2 firsts this year, Jared Verse, and a first rounder next year.
Mm-hmm.
So this might be hard for me to decide here.
I
So our
know I'm
two
putting you on
first
the
round,
spot, but
our
I
two
just wanted to see.
our two first rounders this year. I'm fine with part with those for a quarterback of the future. Maybe even our next round or two. I'm fine with getting rid of that. But for those of you who don't know, I think I've mentioned it before. I am a very avid Florida State football fan.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, seeing a guy like Jared Verse, who you saw tear it up in college, and now you see him tearing it up on your favorite NFL team. Seeing a guy like that leaving will be hard.
That's true. I forgot
Say
about that when I asked you
say
that.
that say Jared Verse is the last piece of the puzzle you put this together. I think I would be willing to part with Jared
Wow.
Verse. I love Jared Verse. I love Jared Verse, but Byron Young is so good as well. You look at Jared Verse. I don't think Byron Young gets talked about enough. Pro Bowler this year, first career Pro Bowl for Byron Young. I don't know if he's a free agent after this year or next year, but he's definitely a guy who's due for a paycheck with the Rams.
Yeah.
And you can't draft. You can't obviously if you make that trade with the Bengals, you can't just. It's not as easy as having a first rounder and drafting another edge rusher out of a top school like that. But I feel like you could either sign a guy, trade a guy, and have just somebody to fill that verse hole until you do get that needle mover like Jared Verse is. But for Joe Burrow, it might be worth it. Joe Burrow, I think this year didn't get to show enough dealing with that turf toe injury all year, and he comes back and they're already out of a playoff spot and they're just not playing great. And you saw him with a couple of turnover issues, is what I saw. But making a trade, I feel like is what I'd want the most. I don't really see anybody out of this draft class that really impresses me. If I had to choose anybody to draft, anybody at all, not named Fernando Mendoza, because there's no chance the Rams are getting Fernando
Right.
Mendoza. And Dante Moore's not coming out. I think if I had to pick a guy, I've been tweeting about this guy on Twitter. If you follow my Twitter, I think I have like 20 followers on Twitter,
Oh
which
yeah.
which is funny because I get like 300, 400 views per tweet. But I am much like I was a big fan of Jared Verse, or not Jared, big fan. How do I get Jared Verse and this guy messed up? Much like I was a big fan of Jalen Milroe
Mm.
last year, there's a quarterback with a similar play style, Trinidad Chambliss. I'm a big fan of
Mm.
him. I've been watching Ole Miss in this college football playoff. He
Mm.
is a playmaker. He reminds me of guys like Caleb Williams, who the Rams are about to play. Well, he's got a little Mahomie in there, a little bit, not too much. Just no. Here's a guy who goes
Now
to
here's
Ole
a guy,
Miss.
you know, his name's
Yeah,
Patrick Mahomes.
yeah, yeah. But no, Trinidad Chambliss, man, he's not a bad quarterback. And I remember me and my dad talking about this while Ole Miss is playing Miami. Trinidad, he's much like Jalen Milroe. He's kind of might be the reason I like him. kind of a scrambler quarterback. He's a playmaker, much like Caleb Williams. He's going to bail from the pocket. He can make some plays with his legs, but he can also make some really impressive plays with his arm as well. And you've seen guys like, obviously, we just mentioned Mahomes, Caleb Williams, they can do that. Jalen Milroe could do that in college. Obviously, you haven't seen much of him because he's sitting behind Sam Darnold, but I feel like it would be better if he sat a year behind Stafford. But
Yeah.
if we're talking have to have a new quarterback next year, I wouldn't be a fan of the Rams drafting anybody because I know they wouldn't be quite the needle mover I would like. But I don't know, if you win a Super Bowl, I'm fine with not winning the Super Bowl the next year. I think everybody else would be too. But
Yeah, I just hope they don't roll with Jimmy Garoppolo for a year and then draft a guy.
yeah,
I could see them doing that.
that would be very tough to see, but at the same time, the only situation where I'm not mad at the Rams rolling out Jimmy Garoppolo for a year is if they win the Super Bowl. Say this year, Rams run the table, they win the bowl, I get all happy, I do whatever I'm gonna do. I don't know if you know this, but no, they don't
Yeah,
know
you
this because
told me.
I don't talk to me. But I sent a list to JT, and it's a list of a bunch of things I'm going to do if the Rams win the Super Bowl. And there's stuff like jump in the pool, like donate to charity, like run a mile in every Rams jersey I own, like stuff like that. Like I'm going to do a bunch if the Rams wins. But say the Rams do win the Super Bowl, I do all my stuff, and next year rolls around. Stafford's done. He's retiring. He has no more to prove. And say the Rams just say, "Hey, we don't like anybody this year out of the draft, and I don't think we're going to go and trade for anybody as of right now. So we're gonna roll out Jimmy Garoppolo for this year." I would not be mad. I wouldn't. I wouldn't love it.
No,
Obviously,
no,
it's not
no.
Matthew Stafford.
I
It's
will
it's
go
not even
out
Jared
there.
Goff.
I will go
It's
out
not
there and
even
hand the
Jared.
ball off every
But
play.
Jimmy Garoppolo, people are forgetting that Jimmy Garoppolo, as a starting quarterback, led the
No.
49ers to a Super Bowl. They did lose that Super Bowl, and I did die laughing at my parents in their face because they're 49er fans. But you look at Jimmy Garoppolo, he's a multi-time Super Bowl champion. You want to know why? Because he sat behind Tom Brady. So I think Jimmy Garoppolo, when you think about it, he could be as good as Brady. No, no,
Okay.
he cannot be. I wouldn't be horribly mad, but say we do get the announcement, hey, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to start this year. I'm just going to expect to miss the playoffs. So you want to
I'm
miss the
not okay with that
playoffs?
though.
If we win the Super Bowl, I won't be too mad
I'm
because
not
like,
okay
hey, we
with that.
just won the Super Bowl. But I mean, yeah,
I don't see
I
why
don't
we
think
can't win the
I don't
Super
think I'd be
Bowl and
too
then
happy.
find a
I say I'd be
before
happy,
then.
but like 3 games into the season, I'd be like, okay, this sucks. I'm not watching it.
Yeah. When we're
That's a
0 and
lie.
4 and Jimmy Garoppolo leads the league in
I support my boy
interceptions, you will
Phillies.
change your mind. Trust me.
Yeah, I really can't think. It's really hard for me to think of a guy who the Rams could just instantly go out and get. Say Stafford retires. I think Dak Prescott would be probably the least inexpensive option for probably a guy that you could make a franchise quarterback. Prescott is the older guy, but you look at Dak Prescott and the way he played this year, he didn't play bad at all. You may look at the Cowboys and say, hey, they missed the playoffs. Dak Prescott's not a good quarterback. But if you're saying that, you really didn't watch the Cowboys this year. It was not Dak Prescott's fault. Sure, he did have CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, but as we've talked about this before, who makes a wide receiver good?
The guy who's throwing to him.
It's the quarterback. You're only as good as your quarterback if you're a wide receiver. If your quarterback's throwing at a defense every play, you gonna have any touchdowns? You gonna have any long receptions? No.
Exactly.
And coaching's a big thing too. Cowboys didn't have super good coaching. I don't think Brian Schottenheimer is a bad coach, but I could see the Rams maybe making a push for Dak Prescott. But I mean, we're gonna have plenty of time to talk about that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variables that go into it, and I think you would agree. You can either trade for a guy, draft a guy, sign a guy. I don't think there's gonna be many people to sign, but I don't know. But I think we should. Or is there anything else? Is there anything you want to mention? I'm gonna say this. What is your biggest concern? I think we mentioned the cornerbacks earlier, but anything besides that, what is your biggest concern going into this Bears game? And we will talk about the weather too. So if it was going to be the weather, we'll have a separate thing on that. We'll kind of end with that.
My biggest concern is stopping their run game. I think someone that has to step up is a guy like Poona Ford, who's our best run stopper. I want him out there 99% of the game because he had a great game against Carolina. He had a sack as well on Bryce Young, and
Yes,
he's
he
a great
did.
run stopper, and we know the Bears have a great running game. So we can't let them get 5, 6 yards every time they run the ball on first down. Can't happen because they're just going to run the ball down our throats the whole game and they're going to beat the crap out of us if we let them do that. So we can't let that happen. That's my biggest concern. What's your biggest concern?
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think that I'll get on my concern here in a second, but I think the Rams had a really good day stopping the run game. Of course, Poona Ford. Poona Ford's a guy who wasn't 100% against the Panthers week 13. So that's also another factor that went into this game. Not only Quinn Lake, but having Poona Ford 100% definitely helped. But I would say my biggest concern going into this game, I don't know, I want to be basic and say the weather or the cornerbacks, but honestly, I think special teams. I think special teams, you look at the end of that game, there's a
Yeah.
good chance, there was a fair chance that our season could have been ended by special teams, and that's been the story of the year. You lose a bunch of games to special teams. I mean, a blocked kick against the Eagles, some misses by Josh Carty in that 49er game, just a bunch of heartbreaking special team misses. Ben Johnson is a very creative coach. You saw that in Detroit with him as the OC, and you see it here in Chicago with him at the helm at head coach. I think um, the Chicago special teams unit, I think they're going to get creative here. I think they're going to see the mismatch on special teams, and they're going to try and get creative here. And I think I don't want to be negative Nelly here, but I think I would not be surprised if I see a sort of a punt return or a kickoff return touchdown by Chicago in this game.
Mm.
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know how you feel about that. I don't know how you feel about their special teams unit, about ours, but I wouldn't be surprised about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely, like a bold take to predict something like that, but I don't think it's ridiculous. The special teams has been a huge problem. And I mean, that's obvious,
Yeah,
So
that's been apparent even last year.
they need to be better. Mevis has been fine. He's just got to, he hasn't really had any situations where he's had to make a big field goal except in Seattle and he didn't make it.
You look
So,
at
but
that
that's the only
Carolina
one.
game, sorry to cut you off, but he was nails. He had to make a couple of big kicks coming down the stretch, and he was automatic. Shout out
Yeah.
Mevis.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. Sunday at 6:30 my time, 3:30 your time. I'm gonna be so nervous the whole weekend. I already
Oh
am. It's
yeah.
only Tuesday. So I'm terrified just because it's the playoffs and I don't want their season to end, but hopefully it doesn't, and we're back here next week talking about their next matchup.
Yeah, kind of just to close this thing off, does the weather in this game concern you? It's going to be a basic question. I think that's the number one thing on people's minds because the weather, I mean, it's going to be real here.
Yeah.
It's going to be cold. It's going to be really cold. So,
Yeah. I mean,
what are your thoughts on this weather?
of course, it concerns me because this is a team that's normally playing in Los Angeles, California, and they're playing indoors, so they're not used to 10-degree weather. The Bears are used to 10-degree weather. We saw what happened when it started to snow in Philadelphia last year. That didn't end great for us, but obviously it concerns me. But if this team is good enough, I don't think that weather is something that is going to stop them from reaching their goal of winning a Super Bowl. I think they're either going to beat themselves or they're just going to get outplayed by a good Chicago Bears team. I think it's going to be one of the two. I don't think we're going to look back on this game on Sunday and say, oh, well, if this game was in LA, we would have won. I think it's just going to be, if we're the better team, we're going to win. If we don't shoot ourselves in the foot every single quarter with a stupid turnover or a special teams mistake or a dumb penalty, we will be fine and we will win this game.
Yeah, I think going kind of back to that Eagles game from last year's divisional round, you played in some really cold conditions, and for most of that game, it was snowing. And you could blame the Saquon big runs on the snow, or you can blame them on Christian Roseboom being stupid, which he is. I hate Christian Roseboom. Hate him. Good luck in
Why?
Cancun, Christian Roseboom. My, I think I'd get banned from YouTube if I
All
spoke
right,
my.
fair enough.
Yeah, but I really, really, really don't like Christian Roseboom, and I'm very glad we have Nate Landon and Omar Spades. Omar Spades been quietly dominating, by the way. Shout out Omar
Hmm.
Spades. You look at the Rams, if they win that Philadelphia game, sure, it's just hypotheticals, but I think everyone could agree that the Rams were going to beat that Washington team last year, say they beat the Eagles. And I think they go on and they beat that Chiefs team pretty easily, just like the Eagles did. And I think
Right.
all Eagles fans will admit that the Rams gave the Eagles their biggest challenge in last year's playoffs. So I don't think the weather will be the reason we lose, just like you said. I think if we lose, it'll be on the defense or some other odd reason shooting ourselves in the foot. Hopefully, this time next week, we're on here again And instead of recapping the Rams' entire season, we are recapping a win against the Chicago Bears. And now the Rams will either be going to Seattle for the NFC Championship or will be hosting the NFC Championship in SoFi Stadium against the Winers, which I don't
Mm-hmm.
think is going to happen, but I also didn't think they would beat the Eagles. But hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully this time next week, we're back here. We're talking about a win, and we're talking about how we're one win away from a Super Bowl. So that's going to be it from us. JT, go tell them where they can find you at.
Yeah, you can find me on the JT Sports Network, JT Sports Network on Instagram and YouTube and on TikTok. You can also follow my podcast I have with my guy Jordan, Ramblin' Rams on Instagram. That's on the JTSN YouTube. So yeah, go check it out.
Yep, you heard him. I think I said it last episode, but unfortunately we had some technical difficulties, and I didn't get to post that episode. But if you're watching this video and you've made it this far in the video, if you're not following JT on every social, every different account he has, I will track down your IP address and you'll be banned on everything. It's just a rule.
Oh.
I wish I made the rules. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
the rules are given to me. I just carry out the rules. Go follow JT on
Okay.
everything. He posts quality content, quality Rams content. If you're a Philadelphia Flyer fan like he is, quality Philly
Let's go.
Flyer content. He's a big
All
fan of
my
the
Flyers and
Dodgers,
Rams
like I
fans out
am
there.
too. Yeah, don't think any Flyer Rams fans are out there, but
No.
no, he also, if you're an LA sports fan, he does like the Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets too. But
Yeah,
we're not big basketball guys. I don't really think you big into basketball like that.
I am, but it's my fourth favorite sport for sure.
Yeah, I would say it's my third, but
Yeah.
after football and baseball, I kind of really don't religiously watch basketball or
Right.
hockey. I mean, I pay attention to hockey, I pay attention to basketball, but I don't religiously watch them. But yeah, he posts quality content. Go check him out. I'm thinking we should have Jordan on this thing next week. What do you think?
Ooh.
I think that might be a good idea. I'm yet to hop on anything with Jordan, so that'd be fun.
I will have to reach out to him and let him know. That would be
Yep.
tough.
So if you're following me, if you're seeing this on YouTube and you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Would very appreciate it. Obviously, as always, go subscribe to JT. If you're not followed any of my other socials, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, go check that out. But that's gonna be all from us. Whose house?
Rams house.
See ya.